Good morning. Today on Business Success in Six with Stacie, I have Will Sue from Sue Ginseng in Wausau, Wisconsin. Thanks for jumping on with me, Will.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on today.
We are really excited to learn about your business, Sue Ginseng, and the health benefits of it, what you're doing in the community. So if you don't mind, we'll get started and I'll ask you questions.
Sure.
Thank you. When people ask you what your business does, how do you describe it?
Basically, we're a vertically integrated ginseng company. So we do everything from farming the ginseng to washing, processing, drying it off the farm, our own farms, and for other farmers as well as a service. And then we do the processing, exporting, and then final wholesale or retail sale, domestic or international. So it's one entire process from start to finish, and we try to do it all.
So I'm going to ask a little extra question. I don't know if all of our viewers know the health benefits of ginseng. Could you tell us about the history and the health benefits?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit easier for me because, if you grow up in an Asian culture, especially Chinese culture, they really recommend that people of all ages take ginseng because of the health and stamina benefits, and then also with assisting the immune system. And so those are the primary reasons that Chinese people take American ginseng. They're exposed to it at a very young age. They see their parents and grandparents taking it, and so as they age, they hear about taking it, or they hear about it from their traditional Chinese medicinalist, and they take it as part of their daily regimen. I would compare it to Americans who take a daily vitamin, or maybe do everything from drink a cup of coffee a day to make sure they get a 20-minute workout in. It's just part of your daily regimen that most Chinese people participate in, and they believe it helps improve their health benefits.
It's wonderful. What were your plans when you started your business and how have they changed?
So my dad actually started the business. He started the business here in 1974. And I moved back about 10 or 11 years ago to help him kind of do some succession planning. He didn't have a real great succession plan in place, and he was diagnosed with prostate cancer back in 2010. So I left my job in corporate America to come back and really make sure that the business was positioned for kind of future success.
Wow, that I'm very sorry to hear that.
So he's still around. He's 80. He, comes into the office every now and then and takes care of the customers that he likes to take care of. We obviously have a lot of people who look for him. He's still active in the business, but his day-to-day role has declined as he's started entering retirement. But
Sure.
so it's been a long retirement, but it's a different business than it was, 10 or 20 years ago.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for sharing that as
Yeah.
well. What is the biggest way you impact the community?
I would say lately especially our farm side, has been partnering with the technical colleges here in the area, as well as the restaurants and the coffee shops and eateries in the area to recycle food waste and food scraps to make sure that they don't go into the landfill. So we've had a real environmental focus over the last 10 years, and I think that's a generational difference since I came back. Is the farm manager, Nick Sanquist, and I have been working with our growing supply division to really encourage people to farm, to garden at home, to do a lot of stuff yourself, especially if, in this community, a lot of people grew up on farms, but they don't have that same exposure anymore because we're all doing Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 jobs. And so you don't get the outdoor experience, you don't get the ability to get your hands dirty. And so those types of skills and activities and hobbies don't get passed down to kids. And so when I moved back, I have a family as well. I have twin daughters. My thing, and with my farm manager Nick, he has children as well in the secondary school here locally. We're really just trying to get involved with education and getting kids interested in farming, in agriculture, in home gardening, and those types of activities.
That's beautiful. Yeah, there are so many benefits to gardening and just being outside. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, and if you don't learn from someone who's doing it, it's really hard. It's a really hard activity for kids to pick up, or even we notice it with young professionals because they haven't been exposed to it, and they come in and they're trying to learn, and it's a little bit more difficult if you haven't seen it before.
Absolutely. What is one challenge that you have faced that other business owners could learn from?
So ginseng is primarily exported to Asia, and in particular China. And with the trade war and the tariffs going on the last 3 to 4 years, we've seen a significant decline in our business. And so I would tell any business owner who is involved with, their day-to-day business is look at who your biggest customers or biggest markets are,
Mhm.
and how do you plan for any disruption there? Because you can lose those markets overnight. And so for us, our business has been predicated on the Chinese consumer and the Chinese market continuing to grow. And that stopped after 2018, and it actually started declining. And so our business direction has changed dramatically over the last 3 to 4 years because we don't have access to those export markets, or at least not to the level we did before the trade war.
That's a huge challenge. So are you retargeting and trying to educate people in the States and in North America on the benefits of ginseng or?
We're trying, but it's a very difficult pivot because of the way that the healthcare systems are in China and those markets. You see your traditional medicinalist as your primary care physician, and you see them
Mhm.
much more regularly than you do here in the US. The US, I would call, is an on-demand system. You go to the doctor when you're sick.
Mhm.
In China and these other countries, you tend to go to the doctor more frequently or more regularly for preventative care reasons.
Mhm.
And so, for that reason, it's really hard to change the way that Americans view healthcare, especially with insurance and everything else related to that. So, I try to tell people, it's one of those things where, um, as much as I would love more Americans to take ginseng and be involved in their daily health in terms of supplements, et cetera, the way the FDA and the way our US healthcare systems are, it's a huge challenge. And with so much of the population in China that consumes ginseng and it being part of their daily regimen,
Mhm.
um, it's you can't replace that. So our segment here in the US still is primarily the Asian American consumer who either grew up here in the US or immigrated to the US because they have high purchasing power. But losing that export market will be devastating it has been devastating and will continue to be devastating to the industry. And you're seeing it. We're losing farmers every year since the trade war because the markets and the prices are not sustainable.
Wow, that is a huge challenge. Another question, just out of curiosity, is the earth and ground in China not as good for farming? Is that one of the reasons why we farm in Wisconsin?
Yeah, I would relate it to maybe your audience for people who consume red wine or coffee.
Mhm.
There are certain I would say geographic or what they call referring to in French as terroir characteristics of the ginseng that's grown here in central Wisconsin. So like wine, it is the same varietal that's grown around the world, but people go to specific countries for certain varietals because of the taste, the flavor, and the winemaking technique. Same with coffee, right? It's the area it's grown, the altitude, how it's roasted, how it's harvested, how it's processed, et cetera, that imparts the flavor. Ginseng is the same way. It's based on the soil it's grown in, and if anything, because it is a soil-based crop, you're harvesting the root. Um, it imparts the flavor. The soil imparts flavor into the root and makes it distinct
Mhm.
from Wisconsin, and that's what our consumers are looking for. They're looking for that distinct taste. Ginseng that's grown in Canada, which is the primary growing region now, or even in parts of China, is not the same.
Mhm.
The other distinction is harder for Americans to understand, which is there are two species of ginseng. There's the Asian species that's native to China, and there's the American species, which is native to North America. The Asian species, if you're familiar with yin and yang, is more yang. It's hot, heating, stimulating, fiery. The
Mhm.
American version is yin, cooling, tonifying. And so those two balance each other out. Men, according to Chinese traditional medicine, are more yang. They're hot, hot-blooded, fiery, have a temper.
Okay.
Women are more yin. They're cooling, tonifying, passive, peaceful. And so they're supposed to take the opposite to balance each other out. So most Asian men take American ginseng. Most Asian women take Asian ginseng. in order to balance out their body and body systems. And so for that reason, and because most Asian women do the purchasing in the household, they buy American ginseng for their husbands, their fathers, their spouses, their partners, what have you. And they consume primarily Asian ginseng short term in the winter because it's heating.
Mhm.
In this time of year, your extremities are cold if you live in a northern climate, and so Asian women will take Asian ginseng in the winter predominantly to help with circulation and blood flow, and so that it warms the extremities. And then they don't take it when it's warmer out. But American ginseng, because it's balancing and tonifying and cooling, they tell their husbands to take it every day. In my household, growing up, my mom would prepare the ginseng or ginseng tea, give it to my dad, who would take it. I see that actually happening in a lot of traditional Chinese households where gender stereotypes aside, the woman prepares the food, buys the product, prepares it for the husband, and then tells the husband to take it because it's good for them.
That is so interesting. And thank you for actually sharing the difference in those ginsengs. I've never heard
Yeah,
that.
most people don't recognize that difference unless you see an acupuncturist or a traditional medicinalist, or if
Sure.
you're familiar with the Chinese medicine system.
Should actually be telling some marriage therapists that too, huh?
Well, it's one of those things, it's you need to, I mean, I joke about it because this makes it relatable to Americans. Is most women complain in winter about circulation and extremities, and most men are like, put on a sweater, get a blanket,
Totally.
don't touch the thermostat, right? Because they're already run hot. And so they're
Mhm.
supposed to be taking American ginseng every day. And if women take it, depending on their body type, it may or may not work. What women are supposed to be taking, because again, you see a medicinalist, they prescribe this. They
Mhm.
will tell most women to take Asian ginseng, especially in winter, to help with circulation.
Wow, that's incredible. So I know you've talked about some of the challenges. What does the future look like for your business? And do you have an exit plan?
It's very different than it was 4 or 5 years ago. We were on a good growth pace prior to the trade war. Since then, we've really started winding down some of our operations on the retail and sales side, and focused on the farming side in order to ensure that we can continue farming.
Mhm.
We've had to restructure a lot of our debt. We've had to work with the local community just to figure out different ways to partner together to keep our farms sustainable and viable into the future if ginseng isn't the primary crop. So those are the things that we're working on right now, is kind of rebalancing our business portfolio,
Mhm.
and also in some ways just trying to deal with how do you run a smaller business. Nobody and no business owner gets into it thinking that, I'm going to shrink.
Right.
Everybody's talking about growth. If you look at any of the coaching, you look at any of the videos, you look about everything that you're talking about on Wall Street, it's all about growth, 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 growth. This has actually been a real challenge for me, growing up in a business world and working in corporate America for over 10 years before I came back to help run this business, which is how do you navigate uncertain times and a business that could grow if it had access to those markets again. But
Mhm.
at least in the short term, given the political situation and our relationship with China, is unlikely to grow.
Mhm.
And what do? Do you completely wind things down and say, we give up? Or do you just try to stick around long enough that maybe things normalize with China? Or do you look for new paths forward in the future? And those are kind of the challenges that we're facing as an organization today.
Yeah, so challenging and interesting. And I would think it would be so devastating to so many people if one did give up and not offer that North American ginseng product.
Well, and then when you're in a family-run business too, right? You have family members and shareholders and people and long-term employees who've been with us for 20, 30 years who just can't imagine, giving up in this type of situation. But it is definitely the worst business conditions that we've been in, because if you think about US and China relationships and growth, it's been, an upward curve for, 30 to 40 years.
Wow. So all subjects open. What inspires you most, Will?
Right now, I would probably say just trying to figure out, how to overcome challenges. I mean, I've always enjoyed the challenge of business. I've enjoyed the kind of the mental challenge of it, figuring out different ways of doing things, different approaches to um, this, to problems. And so as long as the business keeps me engaged in that way, regardless of whether it was in my previous life in corporate America or here now running a family business and a farm, it's
Mhm.
about the challenge. It's the day-to-day mental challenge. And we'll see what the future holds in terms of that. But that's what I enjoy. And then now, because our business has been slower,
Mhm.
um, I've been able to kind of participate in more of the community and community building stuff. So, being able to partner with some of the local organizations, help raise funds for scholarships at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and do some of the things that my wife and I care about and our family care about in terms of education and exposing people to the outdoors and gardening, etc.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing in your business and in the community. If people want to get in touch with you or get in touch with the business, try out ginseng, what would be the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, if they're interested in purchasing ginseng, we do distribute domestically here in the US. Our website is suginseng.com, HSUGINSENG.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and some of the social media channels if you're just interested in seeing pictures of the farm, kind of what we do day in, day out in the farm world. It is such a niche industry that we try to give people a glimpse into what this side of agriculture deals with, because it's a plant. It grows under shade. So as you're driving through central Wisconsin, a lot of times people are like, what is that growing underneath these black shade fabric, along the highway? And if you don't
Okay.
stop and, ask or, know what it is, it's ginseng. And it's been here, it's been part of Wisconsin history for over 100 years. This is the major growing region for the crop in the United States. So that's kind of where we are on social media, or if you're interested in learning more, you can always go to our website and we have some information there as well.
Well, again, thank you so much for what you're doing in the community, how you're educating people and your product.
Yeah, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Have a good day.
You too. Take care.
Thank you.